joined by a few other folks. I don't know why I was just told that there's a recording in progress. It's okay. Anyway.
I just started the video.
Oh, okay, thank you. So I'm very happy tonight to say that Charlie, and not Charles, or Mr. Charles Sumner, has agreed to join our meeting. And my hope is that we will be able to use his services in two particular ways. One being that I think there's been a lot of questions about what the current state of things is in terms of town finance and the process towards reconciling issues that were that emerged over the last, well, pick the number of months you want to look at. And so I think Charlie can speak to that eloquently. And then we have 19 outstanding articles in the warrant that we are that are expecting a finance committee vote. Some of them are pretty critical, like the operations budget and the capital budget. And I think I'm hoping that Charlie will be able to give us a little more insight on how final they are, how close they are, where we are relative to a final, accurate, 100% certifiable tally. And that may give us then the opportunity to make a recommendation or not with some confidence. So if anyone has any questions, I'm going to get going, but why don't we start with the minutes? I hope everybody got them and has a chance to look at them. They're pretty compact this month. This is for Wednesday, May 26th, when we met with the schools and Jim Hood from the Water Enterprise Fund. If no one has any corrections, concerns, or additions or amendments to make to the minutes, I would be happy to entertain a motion to accept them.
I'll move to accept the minutes.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to vote aye. Ira?
Yes.
Stephen?
I wasn't.
Jeff?
I wasn't on the meeting, so
Oh,
abstaining.
that's true. Okay, so
Aye.
Jeff, Mo. I don't know who iPhone is.
It's probably Bob. Bob, is that you?
Yes, it is.
Ta-da!
Okay, would that be an aye on the minutes or an A?
Aye.
Okay, and Kathy, you're muted. Oh, there you are. Aye or nay on the minutes, please?
Aye.
Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, nothing, Karen. Thank you for that.
You're all set.
So I hope everybody, before I turn the floor over to Charlie for however he wants to begin, and then of course, I would suggest that we all, feel free to ask questions. I kind of parceled out about a half an hour for this first segment because we're going to need some time to vote on the articles, and I hope we can zip through those, but we'll see. But Charlie forwarded an Excel document called Copy of Administrative Work Plan or Administrative Work Plan, and then another document called the Auto Blurb from the TA, Audit Blurb, I'm sorry, basically describing what the Administrative Work Plan is intended to signify, which is addressing what have been identified as material weaknesses in the audit report. That isn't the only thing we need to concern ourselves with, the audit, but I know several members of the committee have expressed concerns about the audit itself and what is being done to address those questions. So why don't we start there and then kind of segue, if you wouldn't mind, Charlie, into a more general, what's the plan going forward to get to an accurate number for free cash and expenses and all of that?
Okay, excuse me, Fred. I did not. Did we receive that document?
You should have, yeah.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure it was distributed by Karen in the last week.
Yep.
okay. I didn't see that one. All right.
Oh,
I'll follow along.
Karen, did you forward it back? Did
Sure
you
you
forward
did.
it to Ira as Charlie speaks.
Who do you want me to send it to, Ira?
Well,
Yeah.
I will probably, I'm sure I
Or-
have it. I didn't see it. I have all the others.
I sent it in
Okay.
on Friday. All right, I'll send it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Charlie, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Fred, and it's nice to meet everybody on the Finance Committee, and it's an honor to serve as the interim town administrator. Just for introductory purposes, I served as the town administrator in Brewster for just shy of 30 years, and I worked several years in a few other towns prior to that. So, I've had a lot of local government experience, most of it on Cape Cod. I will also mention that I've hired two individuals to assist on the accounting side. Lisa Sauvé, frankly, was the finance director in Brewster for just about the whole time that I was in Brewster. So we sort of finish each other's sentences. We know how we each feel about fiscal issues. She's terribly competent, and I think she'll do a great job. Mary McIsaac has an equal amount of municipal accounting and treasury experience. She worked for the Department of Revenue doing municipal audits for many years in her early career. And then the second half of her career, she served as a treasurer collector for Harwich. She was the comptroller for the town of Barnstable. She was the finance director for Barnstable County. She's doing an interim, just finishing an interim position up in Truro as the town treasurer collector. So, these two women, they're top notch. They have a tremendous amount of experience, and they'll hit the ground running. So let's face it, I've been here for a little over three weeks. Mary's been here for about 10 days. Lisa's been here a little bit longer off and on. And I think the way that, before I talk about the audit, is the way that we're going to work on this issue is, back in July 1st of 2019, you initiated a new software general ledger accounting package, VADAR. And I will tell you that we used VADAR in Brewster. We're very familiar with VADAR, and there's nothing wrong with VADAR. Lisa Sauvé will step in, and she's going to set up a new chart of accounts as of July 1st, 2021. And she's already working with all of the department heads because, we really want to set up the chart of accounts to make it easy for them to manage their fiscal operations in their departments, both expenditure side and revenue side. So we're going to create a plan that meets their needs. It's very doable. Now, the reality is, since you've initiated the utilization of the VADAR package, department heads have not received monthly accounting balances for expenditures and information on revenues because they did not create an initial starting balance back at that time in 2019. So, how can you produce reports if you don't have initial balances? So anyway, we're going to use the auditor's adjustments probably and create some balances for July 1st. And as I say, create some documents that your department heads can use going forward. Now, at the same time, Mary McIsaac is going to be diving deep and going backwards. And our initial instinct is she'll go back 2 years, all the way to July 1st, 2019. And, the reality is there's been a lot of errors that have been made, coding errors, errors in terms of how they recognize revenues and expenditures. But Mary has a lot of experience. I mentioned she was an auditor for the Department of Revenue. So she'll do a good job working backwards in tandem with Lisa Sauvé. And, some of the issues are modest in nature when you look at the management letter comments by our auditor. But, let's face it, cash reconciliation on a monthly basis has not occurred. And, that's just crucial and central, an element of, municipal finance. So we'll work with your current staff and we'll provide assistance and training, help all those folks do some of these critical functions. And some of that, of course, will be training on the software platform that we have. But, we're really confident that, over a period of time, and it's not going to be just a few months. This is several months, I would say 6 to 10 months anyway, of diligent work on the part of these two women to sort of deal with a lot of the issues that were highlighted in the management letter in the audit. But we're confident we can do it. And as I say, they have good skills. Now, what we've done on the administrative work plan, as we call it, is we've taken all of the items that were referenced in the management letter by our auditors, and we've listed them. We've identified the auditor's recommendations. We've identified the stakeholders who we're going to be working with on each phase. And then we've identified an action plan. And the last column is going to be a date of completion. So we don't have anything in the date of completion because we're all new. But we'll sort of start to embed some information in those cells as we go forward. And then even when we have a estimated date of completion, we'll sort of have a percentile rating, 10% complete, 30% complete, 50% complete. And then our goal will be to update this plan every 2 weeks. So we'll present that to the select board and give them a status report, how we're making out, any difficulties that we're having, any other resources that we might need. And, depending upon the needs of the Finance Committee, of course, would be glad to do the same thing for you as well. So I think that's some of the initial items. I would also like to say that the previous town administrator, Maria, and Heather, the previous town accountant, had arranged for the Mass Department of Revenue to step in and do a municipal finance management review. That's sort of on hold right now, just because, the reality is, and I'll talk about this a little bit later if it's okay with the chair, we've got a lot to do just to get ready for the 2021 annual town meeting. But anyway, once I get that behind me, I will work with the Mass Department of Revenue to do this financial management review. And I've gone through that before in Brewster, and it's really a nice tool. They come in and interview all of the staff, and they'll be interviewing public bodies like the Select Board and the FinCom, I believe, as well. And then they kind of they produce a report with a series of recommendations based upon best management practices in Massachusetts municipal finance. So I think that's going to be a nice tool as well. As I say, this job is going to take many months to do it right. And I think too, that when you really look at what's been going on Wellfleet, I mean, I started to go back and take a look at some of your older audits and management letters. And they reflect, an operation that was in good shape, in good condition, well run. You went through a lot of retirements and resignations, and particularly in the accounting department, you've had significant, turnover in a very narrow period of time. So, I think, that the genesis of the problem really goes back to that, 2 to 2.5 year old time frame. So I think maybe I'll stop right there and see if there's any questions.
Okay, before you and Ira, Karen, I just sent you an email. Linda's been trying to get in. The link isn't working or something or other. If you could just send her an email. I thought I sent her the right link, but maybe she's in a queue that
No,
needs to be
she's-
acknowledged.
She was in the waiting room and I accepted her, but I don't know why she's not coming in.
Well, I had that issue when I logged in. I went to the town website and I logged in from the FinCom meeting on the town website because it wouldn't copy and paste from the invite.
Okay, yeah, I mean, if you could look into it because she's out there somewhere.
Okay,
Thank you. Mo, you're muted at the moment. There you
I'm unmuted now. First of all, Mr. Sumner, it's very,
Charlie, please. Yeah.
Charlie then, it's very gratifying to feel that we've got competent people getting at us out of this hole. I watched last night's selectmen's meeting, and it was one thing that I'm a bit confused about. It seemed like there was one auditor report that didn't happen, and it was the one before the one that's published now. And it seemed to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that that report would have indicated the problems that were existing. Did I get anything wrong in there? And then I have another question, follow up.
So I think, yeah, I do recall that conversation last night. So there was an audit done, there's been an audit done in Wellfleet every year for quite a long time. What didn't happen in the 2019 audit is they didn't produce a management letter. And I think, it's hard to know exactly what was going on at that moment, but my instinct was that you had a new town accountant, Gene, I think.
Right.
I forget his last name, honestly.
Ferrari.
Oh, thank you. You had a new town accountant who had just stepped in and had just sort of initiated the new software program. And my suspicion is that there were probably several issues outstanding, but they wanted to give them a chance to address those. And I suspect that was a part of it.
So those, that management letter, those kind of alerts, you would hope that they would have come from the town administrator. Given that they didn't come from the town administrator and didn't come from the auditing firm, have you thought about recommending a change in auditing firms? Firstly, secondly, what firm did you use in Brewster? And thirdly, would you recommend them?
So I will tell you that the current auditor is under contract for 1 more year, is a signed, executed contract. I did, it's kind of funny you say that, but we used Bob Brown and Associates in Brewster for a long time, and they still use Bob Brown. So I did participate, I should have mentioned this, and thank you for reminding me. I did, the Department of Revenue today had a webinar on municipal audit procurement. So I participated today. And the reality is I I was a town administrator for 38 years, but I've been retired for almost 5.5 years now. And
I'm just beginning retirement. Love it.
and I did do some other things, fun things. But anyway, I did participate. So some of my skills, frankly, are a little stale, So I did listen to the presentation today, and I was even thinking about some of my practices in Brewster. Listening to this weren't the best, and so one of the things that they did mention is forming some type of an audit committee. Because if the audit flows through someone like me, the town administrator, sitting in town hall, and I control the conversation, the auditor is under contract with me, representing the town. So I do think the idea of a municipal audit committee, and that audit committee might just be a couple of select board members, a couple of finance committee members, and some other people. And the nice thing about that is that committee, would assist in the interviewing and selection of the auditor. And they also talked about something that I was guilty of as well, is that really you should think about replacing your auditor every several years. Having a fresh set of eyes to come in and take a look at how business is done. So I'm not suggesting I have any problems with your current auditors. I don't know them. But it was sort of the best management practices issue that I found interesting today. So that webinar is available on the Department of Revenue's website. And if someone's interested, we could always get a copy and forward it to you as well.
So
Thank you.
Fred, can I ask, because I'm gonna,
Oh, wait, Ira had a question. I just want to know if
Okay.
you still have it.
because
Ira.
I was gonna
do.
piggyback
I
on
do
that.
really fast.
Okay, Ira's
really-
next.
Okay, Mr. Sumner, I'm only asking because people ask me, because I'm on the finance committee. So people are asking what happened. Now, after listening to you, can I confidently tell them that we had a town accountant for a very, very long time who was using one system? And as soon as that person retired, the town decided to use an entirely new system. And was that a good idea?
I think as I understand it, that old platform that you were using was a problematic for a number of reasons. And I believe with my whole 3.5 weeks of experience in Wellfleet, so just give me a little slack, that it was necessary to transition to a different vendor. I think so. I think that all is true. Now, when we used Vadar and Brewster from 2004 till today. Chatham uses Vadar. They both are AAA rated communities. And I know in Brewster we're happy with Vadar. There's other vendors products out there. I don't have any dog in that fight, but the problem isn't the software platform. But when you transitioned to the new system, it's important to take the base balances from the prior system and incorporate those so you have beginning balances going forward, and that was never done. And so the systems were flawed from July 1st, 2019. And it's why department heads never got a report on the status of their balances and their, different appropriations and their budgets. So that really, and then it's just a slippery slope that, once you start going down, you just can't get your feet under you to collect it. And then because when Jean left, I believe you hired a woman from the Upper Cape area who was only here for several weeks. she left, and then Heather, I believe, stepped in. So it's just like, oh my God, everything that could go wrong did go wrong.
So am I assuming that we kept the old system for way too long?
I don't want to comment on that because I don't have, I don't know yet. I might over time have a better opinion on that.
Okay.
I could
Last
comment
question.
on that, because Ira,
Okay.
we discussed this before the finance committee when they decided to go with Vadar. Part of the problem with the old software system is that it didn't know, the revenue projection piece of it wasn't working. So we did go over this on the finance committee when we were making this transition from the old system to the new system.
So it was long overdue.
Right, yes,
Okay.
because the one we had was antiquated, wasn't working, wasn't user-friendly, didn't have there was a revenue projection feature in it, but the town accountant at that time, for some reason, didn't want to use it. And that showed up in the past auditors' reports as something that should be done, meaning using the revenue projection feature of the current software for budgeting.
Okay.
So that's why the decision was made to go from that software system to the Vadar.
Okay, last question, very quick.
Oh, well, let this be the last, because Kathy's waiting and Jeff's
I'm
waiting.
sorry,
We
I
have
just-
to get to
I-
a
Go
vote.
ahead, Ira, go ahead.
Just one, just really quickly. How many town accountants do we now have?
2.
Okay, so one of them is the actual, both competent ladies are the actual, one of them is the actual town accountant and one is helping her.
Yeah, Lisa
Okay.
Sauvé, yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathy?
So I have, boy, jumping off of what Mo said, and that's why I wanted to jump in to keep one kind of stream of consciousness, but thank you as well. I don't have any, I don't think anybody's going to have a problem going back to this. So a couple of thoughts that I had is, and Mo alluded to it, that I don't think, 26 years of having the same town accountant with the same eyes looking on the books is never I don't think that's was ever a good idea to have that. I mean, there's a trust and verify position. There's a position. So I would like to see after this is done, Charlie, when you get ready to gracefully exit, as I'm assuming, and we have somebody in place, or I would love to see not just an audit where the auditors come in and and the town provides them the information. I would like to see a compiled audit, if that's what you call it in municipal financing, where not only are the numbers audited, but the procedures that you've put in place are stress tested to make sure that they're stress tested against any weakness. This management report, and I did go over it really briefly, but for 3 weeks is a tremendous amount of heavy lifting to have identified the problems and then come up with pathways and solutions for each one of those. So I have the greatest of confidence that you are going to get that done. But I'd like to see the selectmen or whoever move forward with RFPs on your recommendation of maybe 2 or 3 accounting firms that we could look at to switch out, and then insist that the processes and procedures put in place are tested going forward. So that was one quick one. And if I could have another quick one, I forgot what it was, but it was brilliant. So
I'm
oh,
sure it was brilliant.
it was, is there a way to quantify, I'd like to see the full audit report. So if we decide to go that way, I'd love to jump on an audit committee, just saying, I'll volunteer for that. Is there a way, and Ira asked 2 town accountants, is there a way that we will be able to quantify the cost of cleaning this up over the period of time? And I think you're being generous. I looked at this and said, this is going to be a year. So I think I hope you're not undervaluing and looking at the problem, but 10 months to a year, I think, will there be a way that we will be able to quantify the cost to the town of additional personnel, additional resources, things that had to happen to specifically point to the lift to get us back on track, because I'd love to see that.
You're through the chair. Yep. So
Yes.
yes, yeah, as I say, I try to be careful about how long this is going to take, because it's going to take as long as it's going to take. And I just, you know, in the let's face it, I'm also sensitive to the fact that the longer it takes and the longer I'm here, the more money I make, right? You know, so you know, that's why I want to have a reporting function where I update people with some frequency. But I will definitely create a little spreadsheet and maintain some information relative to the investment that you're going to make in this process.
And that was not directed by any way, shape, or form to you directly, because I think what I've seen so far and what I've heard so far is worth the value. Because this would snowball, and you know, I'm glad we caught it when we did. I feel it was, you know, we had town accountants who were responsible to us in a contractual way. We have department heads that, you know, should have been, I guess, warning us that they weren't getting their budget numbers. We had town administrator, select board, town accountants. So I feel like this was sort of the perfect storm, because there were a lot of checks and balances that were missed. And that's the frightening part for me going forward.
Yeah, thank you. There's nothing you can do to offend me. So I'd rather you all ask me questions, because, you know, the transparency about this process that we're about to go through is important. You know, your community deserves that. I was going to say too, one of the things, you know, I work on a series of 90-day contracts, right? So I know I'll be here for 90 days because I have a 90-day contract, and that's all that is allowed under the charter, as I understand it, which is fine. But I think the other thing that I'd like to do as we progress and get to a better place is then say, you know, Mary, Lisa, and I would like to help with the recruitment processes if the community wants us to help. And I think the other thing is I'd like to then also create a system, if we bring in new staff, to use someone, probably Mary or Lisa, over a period of time to test whether these functional things are occurring the way we designed and trained people to do. So trust, but verify. So I do think the reality too, by the way, is there's a horrific shortage of municipal finance people out there for a whole bunch of reasons. And a lot of it is, you know, I was born in 1955, you know, I'm a baby boomer, and a lot of people that are working in local government, we're all sort of aging together. A lot of people are retiring all at the same time. So I do think, you know, it's going to be challenging, but I think it just shows you that support, training and support for a period of time and verifying that that's worked is going to be very important. It's a small investment to maintain this big investment that you're about to make.
Thank you, Charlie. Yeah, I'd like to kind of like cut this segment to have it come to a close soon, okay? Because we have 19 articles to vote on, and we can continue the discussion, but in the context of voting. So if it's important, Jeff, go for it.
Yeah, I'd like to say a couple of things. First, Charlie, thank you for assembling the team with Lisa and Mary to get us out of this financial marshland that I feel like we're in. And I watched your last night's select board meeting and really got a sense. This to me is not a software problem. I don't even know if it's an audit problem. This was an implementation problem. And basically the whole project was improperly managed. What we have is bad data, and that's got to be cleaned up. And that's the job ahead of you. And I have two things that I really want to ask. First, I think your spreadsheet that you've shared with us, if you could ask Lisa or Mary or somebody yourself to just could better inform us. The last couple of weeks, the finance committee has been learning more about this from the newspapers than from any official source that I'm aware of. And I've really felt lost and helpless. So I like what you started. Please don't just share it with the select board. We would really appreciate it if we would be included. Second, and this one maybe is a little more, just a request. I feel like you said before, we've been feeling really confident that, we're AAA rated, we have very good financial position, and I felt blindsided, and I think all of us here, as well as the select board, and I don't know what it was that is there anything that you guys, as you uncovered, that we could be tracking, monitoring? Because I don't like the fact that we're just, right now we're just hoping that there was, nothing bad that occurred. It was just bad data. But I don't like is there anything that we could be doing? We are only an advisory committee, but things that we should be asking for or looking at that maybe would help prevent us feeling so helpless in the future. That's all I got.
Well, why don't I say the answer to that would be, once Mary, Lisa, and I kind of get the wheels going, and I'd rather include them in that answer, in that conversation. We could all do it together with you. And let's talk about that further, if that's okay.
I think that would be an appropriate thing to do. Just as an FYI, in case members of the committee don't know, Charlie and I have met twice. I also met with Harry Tarkanian last week in relation to what you were saying, Jeff. A month or more ago, when the Finance Committee reached out to various resources to say, what can we do? What advice do you need? And what data do we need to be able to give that advice? The general message was wait, because we don't have the data yet, because the numbers aren't ready yet. The budgets are being recalibrated, and we waited. And I think we waited until we couldn't wait anymore. And that's the process. That's where we are now. So over the last couple of weeks, the Finance Committee through me has reached out to Charlie, to Harry, to a variety of other people to start to answer the question of what we can do vis-a-vis the audit, for example. If there's any credible advice we can give on the execution of or the possible resolution of the material weaknesses. I think the other side of that, and I believe Charlie just touched on it, and I'd like to use that as a segue to the next segment of actually voting on things that we need to vote on, is that there is a going forward process here. It's not just looking at the audit and seeing what has been done to resolve those material weaknesses, but it's also the question of when will the DOR certify free cash. Charlie has indicated we may have to have a fall town meeting to reconcile some of the budget numbers that are being guesstimated now and will be firmer in a few months. I think part of that as well, and I think we've touched on this in terms of, and particularly in Charlie saying that he and Lisa and Mary would potentially like to be on the vetting committee for replacements, is that we have to have some confidence that once fixed, that the process is endured, that once the system is stabilized and there are new accounting controls, that they are adhered to and that they are recognized and supported by the select board, by the department heads and the accounting processes, so that the whole town is on the same page about how to move forward. If we don't have that confidence, then we may have a short-term fix that gets broken again in 6 months or 12 months if people go off the reservation. So how we get there, I think, is part of, if I don't want to speak for you, Charlie, but I think that's part of what you and Lisa and Mary and the select board will be working on over the next few months. And I think you're probably hearing that the sense of the Finance Committee is that we want to be fully engaged in that process to the degree that it's appropriate.
Yeah, thank you. But the answer is, I would like to have you all heavily engaged, because it's even like we had a department head meeting the other day. I want the department heads to know what we're doing. I want the Finance Committee to know what we're doing, because it's the only way. It's a mechanism to educate the public too, because you all meet people at the beach, at the market, wherever, the restaurant. And the more you know about what we're doing is going to build credibility for everybody. So
I agree. So Mo, I'm going to ask.
Rest assured, I want you involved. So
I'm going to ask that you hold the question unless it's critical, because we really need to move forward.
No.
Okay. So thank you, Charlie, for the overview. There will be follow-up questions, I guarantee. Having said that, we have, as I said, 19 articles, and I think we need your guidance on the first 3 or 4 particularly, because they are the operating budget, the capital budget, and the budget transfers. That may not actually be an issue, but there are a couple of basic key articles. I hope everyone has their copy of the warrant in front of them, because we'll be going kind of sequentially from question to question. And the first one is Article 1, which is the operating budget.
Mr.
And yes,
Okay, so relative, and I hate to do, I'm going to do this to you a few times. So I will tell you that Lisa Sauvé and I have been meeting with department heads to try to review the budgets according to what their needs were. And we are still working on that. We're going to be recommending a couple of amendments to the budget right on town meeting floor. For example, and by the way, what Harry Tarkanian did for his community to put this budget warrant together in an incredibly short period of time deserves a lot of thanks by the
Yep.
community. But I, the fact is that I think, for example, the reserve fund is not built into this budget. So I just found that out a couple of days ago. So anyway, we're going to be
you mean
amending.
Finance Committee Reserve Fund.
Yeah,
Yep. I
so
found that out. I found that
we're going to be
out
giving you an amendment anyway. So I'm almost thinking we need a little bit more. You're going to have another meeting is what I'm saying.
before town meeting.
Yeah,
I'd like to move that we reserve our recommendation at town meeting for the operating budget.
Before we make that motion, Charlie, does that sound right to you that we should reserve our opinion until close to town meeting? You'll have better numbers in the
Yeah.
next 2 weeks?
Yeah.
But the
Yes.
understanding, town meeting is only less than 3 weeks away.
yeah, I'm a little anxious myself because this is a little stressful, but yeah. Lisa and I would say in the next 3 days, we'll finalize some of these numbers.
Okay, so of the articles that we're looking at, which ones, because we can do this as a gang in here. We've got the capital budget, we've got the operations budget, we've got the transfers.
Fred, there's a motion on the floor to
Yes,
reserve
and
recommendation.
Stephen, I
at
don't have
town
to take that
meeting,
motion
so-
until I'm ready, so just a moment, please.
Okay,
Are there a number of these early articles that you think we should wait on so we can just say we'll reserve to town meeting or to the next meeting on them, so we don't have to go through each one?
Yeah, okay, yeah, so I know for a fact that Article 1 and Article 2, we're not close to being ready on. And I will say the budgetary transfer article is going to be in the range of a couple of $100,000. But we're.
Okay, so Stephen, if you wouldn't mind amending the motion to be 1 and 2, then we can just go forward, okay?
so moved.
Second,
Can I have a second, please?
second,
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
I,
Bye.
No nays. Okay, so it's 9-0, I believe. All right, so Articles 1 and 2 we have reserved for our next meeting or for right before town meeting, depending on how that works out. Article 3, the capital budget, which is Appendix B1 in the warrant. The one question I have there is that a number of the items in the capital budget are items we voted on when we did the capital plan back last fall, and then they showed up again in a later warrant, and we reviewed them and said, yep, we're gonna go ahead and continue to say yes to those capital items. Now, some of them have been moved off of being debt service articles to being funded by the ambulance fund, for example. Could you just speak to the capital budget as it stands right now, Charlie, and tell us exactly what we're voting on here and if it's gonna change?
Yeah, so I'm trying to think of the easiest way to do this is, I think the way we're going to do the motions on town meeting floor, although, and I'm meeting with your moderator and Harry next Tuesday, I believe, is we'll probably vote on each one separately. So if you think of that, this article number 3, there'll be 11 motions, the debt, and then each one of these capital items.
But so here's our challenge as a finance committee, the way I see it. We've already voted to approve certain items, for example, 215, fire and rescue ambulance replacement as a separate article. But in a normal year, we would see 301, 302, the high school and tech high school assessments as separate articles. And I mean, we could certainly say, sure, but what are we voting on if we're voting on the capital budget?
Yeah, one of the things that I started working on today was I'm gonna create a spreadsheet that shows each article in the amount and the funding source. I'm hoping to have that finished drafted tomorrow. And on this particular article, my spreadsheet will show each one of these items in the amount and the funding source. So I just think it'll be a cleaner way for you to wait for that spreadsheet in the new detail. And then Fred, you and I could meet beforehand, try to cross-reference what you've already voted on and see where you need to do amendments.
Stephen, would you like to introduce this other
So
resolution?
moved. I move that we reserve recommendation at town meeting.
I
Would someone other than
apologize.
Kathy like to second?
I would second it, and then I have a question.
Okay, do you want to ask the question? Is it relative to the motion before we vote?
No, it's relative to the next motion.
Okay,
So
so
vote.
I'm going to vote aye. Ira?
Yes.
Anybody vote nay, otherwise let's just assume we're all ayes. And Karen, I'm sorry, but you'll have to just count them all up. I think it's 9-0, if I'm not mistaken. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, it'd be 9-0.
That's Bob saying aye.
All right, so Article 1, 2, and 3, we are reserving. Article 5, the Water Enterprise Fund,
So,
Jim
Fred,
Hood.
Can I?
Yes, I'm sorry, Kathy, go
Can
ahead.
I just want to kind of throw this out as a procedural question. Is there, since we have piecemealed this together, should we make a motion to rescind our prior votes and just wait for all of them to be ready? Or
Well,
is
so
that,
here,
We can't.
I'm going to speak kind of, off the top of my head here. We've discussed in the past that the operating budget is really the accretion of all of the various departments. We interview all the departments, look at their budgets. In a normal year, we would have gotten something like this, the whole book back in December, and we would have had an opportunity to see the entire operating budget, at least in its form back in early January. That wasn't how it worked this year, but we did go through each one on the assumption that if we understand the pieces, we understand the whole. That changed radically in May when the budgets got rejiggered in a significant way, such that everything we did in January, February was kind of thrown up in the air. I think it's similar with the capital budgets. They were originally presented as individual articles, and it does not appear that they're going to be presented as individual articles anymore. We're going to have a capital budget to vote on. So I think to some degree, all our previous votes were null and void. We're going to have the option to either vote up or down on the capital budget as Charlie presents it in a week or two when we have that meeting, so that we see it in its final form. Does that make sense?
so is there anything that we should be doing tonight, or should we be waiting on everything?
Well, on those three, there's other articles we can vote on. Those
Okay.
three apparently we need to reserve because they're just not.
Because they're
And
just not ready.
I
Okay,
had a suspicion that they weren't finalized. The question was really going to be for Charlie as much as anybody. How close are they? So are they close enough that we could vote to recommend with no expectation of great surprises? If you told me that it was 99% complete and we were like dithering over 1%, I'd say, yeah, we could probably vote to recommend. If you're saying they're going to be significantly different, apparently, it's possible, right? Then we want to wait.
okay.
And I think that's the mode we're in.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we had kind of an outline of what we were, kind of that basis of what we were moving forward with and not. So, okay, I'm good.
I think what we're moving forward with is an expectation that we will have a better sense of what we're voting on in 2.5 weeks ahead of town meeting, so that we will either have the opportunity. Remember, we've had the opportunity in the past also to just say, we don't vote up or down because we just don't understand it, or we don't have trust in it, or whatever.
Yeah.
So
And
that will be a statement in its own right if the finance committee says we don't have confidence in the budget, but that's a determination we'll make in two and a half weeks.
So, and I will tell you, so Lisa Sauve and I will be meeting with Harry and Tarkanian and Dan Silverman next Tuesday, I believe. We're gonna go over our numbers, we're gonna go over all the motions. So I believe at the end of Tuesday, I'm gonna have all the motions ready, tested again with Harry, Lisa, and Dan. And I'll have numbers for all of these things as of the end of next Tuesday.
So going forward, Kathy, I will arrange to meet with you, Charlie, hopefully Wednesday, Thursday-ish, maybe.
Yeah,
We'll get those numbers. As I understand it, if you are sent those numbers but do not respond, it does not break open meeting law. And we will have a meeting scheduled for whatever is appropriate. We'll figure that out before the end of the night. And you'll have at least a week to go through the numbers, raise whatever questions you're going to have, and hopefully we'll go into the last meeting before town meeting with as clear an idea as is possible of what the operating capital budgets and transfers are.
yeah, I'll have a spreadsheet and all the motions, and I'll meet with Fred and go over it, and we could get those out next week.
Awesome.
Great.
Are you gonna get some sleep at any point, or?
I know, I am a little anxious.
Jeff, I want to move on. Do you have a
There's
question?
there's a pre-town meeting by the forum on June 14th. And I gotta believe that, you'll probably be presenting. Well, I know Dan is running that, so Dan will probably be going over this. And it would seem to me, right after that would be a good time for us to, by that point, there should be some clarity in terms of the items that we're not quite sure of right now.
Okay. So the
Yeah, I
next
agree.
article, the next article we have to vote on is the Water Enterprise Fund. It is article number 5 in your warrant.
So Fred, I have
Scroll
a
down.
question on the format of the budget.
Yeah.
It looks like there's other income with a figure 1,484. Do we know what that other income is? Does it include the base service fee? If it doesn't, going forward with the Water Enterprise Fund, I would like a separate line under estimated revenue to have the base service fee there, even if they're not collecting revenue from it. But first, I'd like to know if that income figure of 1,484 is in fact from base service fees.
And what page are you on?
Are you
This
on
is
page
appendix,
73?
appendix D for the Water Enterprise Fund budget. It would be page 73.
Hey,
Yeah, it's page 73.
Uh,
I'm sorry, I'm
Right.
not seeing the line item you're referring to, Stephen. Where is it?
At the bottom of the page under estimated revenue, there's
Right.
an other income figure, 1,484.
Oh, on mine it says 1,500. Maybe I have, let me see if it's been amended.
Oh,
in
yeah,
this.
you're reading the right one. I'm sorry. I'm reading the one from 2020.
uh,
1,500, yep, at the way end there.
Yeah, I honestly have no idea what that number refers to.
I'm sorry, I don't either.
Okay, so since the Finance Committee can request budget format from other departments, I would like to make the recommendation that they do add a line item for base service fees. This is part of their makeup. It is something that they can technically charge to people who are currently hooked up. Even if they don't have anything in there, that's fine, but I think it's good so that the rest of the community can be aware of the vehicles available to the enterprise fund to collect revenues for the town.
So you're really just asking that there be another line item.
This,
added.
yeah, this is a format request, budget
Okay.
format request.
So I don't think that prevents us from.
Yeah, we can
recommending-
vote on this. I mean, this is a good deal, by the way, compared to Eastham. They're only asking for what, 84,000?
So Karen, if you would make a note to the effect that we're going to reach out to the Water Enterprise Fund, Jim Hood, I would assume, and ask for a line item addition as a formatting addition. I don't see any, I don't have a problem with that. Does anybody else have an issue with that?
What is the line gonna be? Basic, under, like, water use
No,
charges?
base service fee.
And it would be under the estimated revenue?
Right. It's another tool for them. We don't use it, but the gist of it is, and it's similar to co-ops in that if there's a budget shortfall, they can take the budget shortfall and divide it by the number of users and assess a base service fee. It's in the charter.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah. So it's just a format thing.
And if
basically.
they have an issue with it, they'll respond to us and tell us what the issue is and we'll go forward.
Well, they shouldn't have an issue for it because
Well, I
we
know,
can
but-
request it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know you
Uh,
want to play nice, that's fine. But yeah, as far as I would move that we approve the Water Enterprise Fund request.
I think it's $86,000.
Yeah.
84,214.
Yep. I've got a motion, a second, anyone?
I second.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you and welcome. All in favor, say aye. I am an aye.
Aye.
Jeff,
I,
Jen, looks like we got all ayes. And Bob, iPhone Bob.
Aye.
9-0, Karen. Article 6, prior year invoices. The select board has not weighed in on this. Do you have any idea why, Charlie?
Because we only think we just found out on, what day is today? Forget what day it is. Anyway, we only found out
What
Monday.
day of the night?
Monday. We believe at the moment we have one unpaid invoice. It's for Bonsai Logic. It's in the amount of $5,439. And we'll use
So-
speech revenues to pay for that.
So Fred, could I just point out that every year we have the same thing and it's just basically the town does have to pay its bills when they're left over. I mean, unless somebody wants to dispute a $5,000 bill.
Oh, no,
um,
I don't disagree with that, Stephen. It was just,
Yeah.
it was nice if there was a real number attached to it, but
That's true, yeah.
if you're confident, Charlie, that like, if there's not going to be another number with 5 zeros behind it showing up in the next 2 weeks, as long as our basic recommendation is that the town pays its bills and that they are marginal, essentially, and that they're being paid for out of the beach fund, I can't see why we'd not recommend that they get paid, but
You asked me if I'm confident I'm not going to come up with another unpaid bill. I'm not going to say I'm confident.
no, it's not another unpaid bill, that might be 100,000, 200,000, 50,000, that we're not going to have like what they used to call it, an October surprise, you know.
Yeah, not that I know after 3 weeks here, so.
Well, with that much assurance, I'd be inclined to say we can recommend Article. I would entertain a motion to
I move
recommend.
that we recommend supporting Article 6.
All right, may I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, I, Woody,
Half-heartedly, aye.
well, you don't have to say aye. You can abstain if,
Fine, aye.
I think we understand the constraints here for sure. in
Okay,
this weird.
aye.
Okay, Jeff,
I,
Mo,
Aye.
Jen, Linda,
Aye.
Kathy,
Aye.
Bob.
Aye.
Okay, 9-0 with slight reservations, I believe. Article 7, the Wellfleet Police Officers Union Contract. This was not a done deal, the last I heard. Has it been finalized?
Yeah, I understand that it has. I do have a number that will be included in the motion on town meeting floor. Would you like that?
Yes, please.
That number is $32,857. It's a 1-year contract.
I'll move it.
Thank you, Woody.
I'll
Thank you,
second.
Stephen. I will vote aye. Wood,
Aye.
Stephen, I'm assuming aye. Jeff? If anybody doesn't, except for Bob, who I can't see, just shake your head no, otherwise I'm going to assume unanimity here. 9-0 to approve or to recommend. Article 8, non-union and other personnel compensation.
I'm not ready to make a recommendation on that item yet.
But the select board has recommended it 4-0. Any idea
Yeah,
why?
I know, but I don't know how much, I'm still trying to figure out how much money is necessary to fund that article. So I am going to be reviewing that with Dan and Harry on Tuesday.
All right, then I
I move we reserve.
thank you. Second?
Second.
Second,
Okay, if anybody disagrees, please say so. Otherwise, 9-0 to reserve our recommendation to either our next meeting or town meeting. Whichever comes first. Okay, moving right along. Article 16. Replacing the backstops. It's a DPW. This has moved around a little bit. At one point, it was not in the DPW budget, then it was. This is the replacement of the baseball backstops at Bakersfield. Charlie, I know you've only been in the job for 3 weeks. The only question I ever had on this is why does it cost $35,000 to replace a backstop, a baseball
many-
backstop?
You know how many balls you save?
I don't, but I hope it's $36,000 worth of balls, or I don't quite get it. But yeah, I mean, do you have any insight into why this is a $35,000 number?
Well, the answer is no, I really don't. I haven't even, here's the truth of my position. I haven't even left town hall other than when I drive in the morning and I drive out at night. So I haven't even been to the field yet. So I want to get out. Everybody's like, oh, it's wonderful. You're working in Wellfleet. Do you love going down the harbor? And I was like, I haven't been there yet. So I don't know. Sorry.
So here's the thing. We generally have been approving of what the rec department has been doing. My recollection is that a year and a half or so ago, this was a rec department line item, that it got moved to the DPW. I kind of remember, and I could be totally wrong on this, that we had reserved our opinion back then because we just didn't really understand what it was or why it cost that. But it is what it is. It's survived this long and it's in the budget and it's been recommended 5-0 by the select board. So unless someone has a significant issue with the cost or whether we need backstops, I would entertain a vote to recommend it or other.
I
I'm gonna
move that we
move.
recommend it.
I second.
Okay.
I know nothing about backstops.
The only thing
Me-
I'd say is as long as I've been here, there's never been any maintenance. I mean, I think the field has been done over, but I don't remember any maintenance to the backstop or any part of that field. So
And it could be one of
I'm
those.
comfortable with this just because it,
Yeah, I
it could
will
be
say,
like-
Fred,
like the boat
there
in
was
the
a
movie.
report by the Mike DeVesta, the chair of the select board, went down the field. Your rec director talked about it, and Jay, our interim DPW superintendent, and I understand it is in a state of disrepair and a little bit dangerous possibly.
Then we've got a
Yeah, I-
motion and a second. Go like this. If you do not agree, go like this. I suppose if you want to, I'm going to assume it's all ayes unless I hear otherwise.
wait, Bob left the room.
We still have a quorum, though.
I know, I'm kidding.
Sorry, I
For it.
got my charge a little bit.
You look good, Bob, by the way. Not for nothing.
Thanks.
See you, Bob.
Anyway,
Same.
Aye.
so I believe we are 9-0 to recommend. Article 17, amend the rate of local excise tax on short-term rentals. My understanding here is that kind of everybody's doing it, was the explanation that I got, which is that a lot of other towns have raised their excise tax rate from 4% to 6%.
Yeah,
And we are up the rear on this, and this is basically us catching up to a lot of other towns that are doing this. Is that a fair summation, Charlie?
Yes.
I'm gonna move it.
thank you.
Okay.
Second,
All those in favor? Thank you. 9-0.
Aye.
Thank you, Bob. Um,
There
18,
will be many angry people at town meeting about that, I'm sure.
Who cares?
yeah, well, yeah.
They're probably the same
Article-
people who complain about the taxes going up and then, never mind.
So Article, I will be the first to admit, I don't really know much about Article 18. Main Street Route 6 engineering design, it's $138,000. And to be honest, I've been trying to figure out what exactly this engineering is going to produce.
I'd like to know what happened to the other one that was done. There was one done several years ago, and this was to reconfigure that entrance, the Main Street to Route 6 to accommodate bicycles. I think that's what this is about, right?
That's what it sounds like, but it doesn't really
Yeah.
say. And I believe you're right. It's just not clear to me that Charlie, do you know what this article is intended to do from an engineering perspective?
Well, I know that the town is working with the Mass Department of Transportation to make a series of significant improvements on Route 6 at that Main Street intersection, which is new signals, new road layout. And the nice thing about, I will tell, the only thing I do know that's really important is Mass Dot has this funded under the transportation planning funding scheme. So your town is in a good place to get money for the actual construction cost associated with this project, but we've got to advance the engineering. And if you lose your place in the queue, someone else is going to gobble up these resources that are positioned to be spent here in Wellfleet. So I do think, I don't know a lot about the project. We can get the DPW superintendent to talk about it further, but I think it's important project.
Fred?
I'll
can I
move it. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can
Fred.
I just check a question first?
Yeah, hold on one second.
May
Oh,
I?
you're first, and then Kathy.
I don't understand why this isn't a state function. It's a state road. I recall I had requested a no left turn signal at the light on the southbound side. And I was told that we couldn't even put up after some accidents occurred with people making left turns to go to the pharmacy, that we couldn't even put up a left-hand turn signal because the state needed to do it and approve it, of course. I don't understand what our role in a state road would be.
I
Well,
can answer that question because we own the Main Street. And we did there was one of these engineering studies already done through the Bikeways Committee 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And the responsibility for the town is the fact that we own Main Street up to it.
Okay. Kathy, did you have a
They
question?
didn't they want to put in a roundabout like they did in Orleans?
That was
And-
one of the projects, but that
Yeah,
never
that
went.
was possible. Kathy,
So-
you were next.
So I can tell you that I'm reading this, and it's to appropriate the sum of money not to exceed 250 to assist in the installation of high performance AI innovative septic systems. So we're talking about road.
No, you're
maps
on the
in-
wrong article. It's
Oh,
18
okay.
you want to look at.
Never mind, then I don't have a problem because I'm gonna have one with 18. I'm
Okay.
gonna have one with 19.
Well, we are on 18.
Okay, I lied. I was one ahead.
What does
And
it say does it say anything on 18?
No,
Kathy?
it's the
18
engineering
18 is
design.
the
Okay.
engineering design for the redesign of
Yeah,
Route 6.
okay, I'm okay with this one.
So,
So I'm
If-
gonna move it since I
okay, thank you.
to move
A
it ahead.
second, please. Okay, we got a second. I'll vote aye. Woody, you're aye, I'm assuming. Stephen?
I'm going to vote against it.
Okay. Jeff,
Aye.
Mo,
Aye.
Jen? Linda?
I'm with Steven, no.
Okay. Kathy?
I'm going to abstain.
Okay, and
I was
Bob.
reading the wrong article.
Aye.
Okay, so we are 6-1, I believe.
Two.
6-4, 2 against, 1 abstain, if I'm not incorrect. Karen.
Wow, you did that math all by yourself. That's great. I would have had to use a calculator. I would have had to use the calculator.
I did have to think about it. You heard me pause.
No, but you were quick. That was
All
good.
right.
Nobody
Article-
would have known if he was wrong.
Yeah, exactly. I had to use my fingers.
Fortunately, you can count all of us with 10 fingers or 9. All right, Article 19. This is one of the surviving wastewater. Remember that there was one massive wastewater article. It then got broken up into 8 smaller baby wastewater articles. There are 3 that have survived, 19, 20, and 21. The next 3 that we're looking at are all the wastewater articles.
Do you have a
The-
page number on the warrant, just to make it
Yeah,
easy?
it's page
14.
14.
Page 14 is the Article 19.
Yes.
Yes.
Can I go on
So-
this one now, since I was all queued up, Fred?
Yes, and can I go after Kathy? I have a question.
Want to go before me, Ira? Go ahead.
You want me to?
Whoa. Let's maintain some order here.
Okay, I just have,
Well, Kathy was first. Are you
Yes,
ceding
sorry.
your position in the queue here? Right?
Oh, now we
Given that
come up
Charlie
with
just said,
rules.
if you cede your position in the queue, you may get thrown to the back of the line.
All right,
Go
so
ahead.
here's my problem with this one, that I know for a fact, for this guy that I hang out with, that the health, the Conservation Commission, or I'm sorry, the Board of Health has not weighed in on this. This has not been an article that has been brought to the Board of Health. We're asking for funds to help people with alternative septic systems. So these funds are going to be going to private citizens, which I have a problem with without a policy or plan, because in the interest of fairdom, which I hate fair, but I see issues with assisting in some ways and assisting in another. So I don't believe that this article is even close to being recommended by the Finance Committee, because the pertinent committees need to weigh in on it, and I don't see anybody but the Select Board. So,
Yes, Ira.
okay, so my question is, when we help people with pieces of equipment which will raise the value of their property, shouldn't, even if they are being helped because they don't have the money now and it's for the benefit of the town, shouldn't there be a provision that the cost of the money that the town lent them should be added on to their property and given to the town upon the sale?
Excellent point.
Yes,
That's
very good.
very
point.
eloquent and well put. Thank you, Ira.
Thank you, Ira.
Or as an alternative, to increase the assessment so that their taxes go up. And
That's
in
a better
some
one.
way, that would cover some of
Betterment.
that cost as well. I don't know which would be easier. I have a feeling the assessment might be an easier way to do it.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing. The only, I'm going to speak anecdotally here, because I don't want to say that this is an absolute truth, but I know there's been general support for the Lawrence Road article, because it's viewed as the flip side of getting water to the potential affordable housing site. You need to manage the wastewater. All of the other wastewater articles have had questions attached to them from various sources and for different reasons. My recollection from our having been presented the wastewater story twice this year, if you recall, in February and again in April, was that this septic system upgrade program is to some degree speculative. It's the science appears, at least from the perspective of the wastewater committee, to support the idea that putting these systems in will reduce the nitrogen that ultimately gets to the harbor, or get it out of the ground. How long it takes for that to happen and what the cumulative effect of putting in 1, 10, or 100 is, is speculative. Nobody knows for sure what impact it's going to have on the harbor. It's just viewed as a generally good palliative. What I'm hearing from the committee is that given the fact that and they weren't unanimous, the only board so far to vote on this was the select board, that maybe we want to table this at least until our next meeting, and possibly, depending on what emerges, to Kathy's point, from the other boards between now and then, either guide our recommendation or not, or perhaps do what we did with the Hilta purchase and say, we just don't know it, understand it well enough to take
So,
an opinion
Fred-
one way or another.
Fred, can I just, I mean, the last time we spoke to Kurt Felix and Mr. Horsley, they kept touting the fact that we have a plan. Okay, so I get the fact that they put together a plan, but that plan's not been certified. So we really don't have a plan. And this is a piece of something, according to Kurt Felix, that would fit within this plan. I'd be more comfortable voting for something like this once our wastewater plan has been certified by the, what is it? Whoever has to certify it. Because then when you have a certified plan, then you know you can move forward on these alternatives. This may work, and as you said, it's not a proven option. It may not work. So I would move that we not recommend this article.
I'm going to second that, and I'm going to add to what Stephen said very quickly and just say, if, as you say, it's just a palliative, and yet we're going to be giving money to people to upgrade their septic system, hell, and they're not going to have to pay it back, that doesn't strike me as really fair. So I would also withhold our recommendation.
Okay, before we take a vote, Mo, you had your hand up prior to the motion.
Well, I think that approaching a segment of our wastewater plan is not invalid. I think it's a valid way of doing it. We don't need to know every possible methodology to think that one is appropriate. My concern here is how it gets paid for. And I feel like it should be part of the article. And without that, I think it's inappropriate. And again, I have to say that I think a change in an assessment that would increase the taxes is a fair way to do it. It's logical, and it does what needs to be done for town in terms of upgrading septic systems. We've got old septic systems that need upgrading, and this is a way to do it without a great deal of cost. If something gets incorporated in it that speaks to how it gets paid for. As it stands without, I would.
Right, but there is nothing in it right now.
Then there's no teeth to that, Mo, because if I were a homeowner and they said, okay, well, you can upgrade your septic, but we're gonna sock you with taxes, I'd say, no, I don't want to do it, and you can't make us do it.
This is
That's-
so far down the line from being even ready to be approved based on who's going to get them, what are the criteria. There's so many other things that need to be decided scientifically prior to a financial commitment from the town.
So let me ask a question, and Stephen, I don't want to, I know you've put a motion up to reject this,
To not recommend.
to not recommend, yes.
I don't reject the concept. I would not
It's-
recommend this article.
What I'm hearing, and we haven't heard from everybody, and Jeff has his hand up, but what I'm hearing is that there are objections to this article from a number of perspectives. Some of them are financial, some of them are incomplete in terms of seeing the whole plan and so on. But I'm not getting a sense of overwhelming support for the article as written. Yes,
Let me
Jeff.
jump in with a little bit of support. And first, they no longer are called wastewater. They changed their name. It's now, maybe Charlie knows, clean water or something like that. The idea as this was presented to us was this is one of the alternate strategies. It's not about paying to put in somebody's new septic. It's to give them a delta, an additional 10,000, so they will upgrade from, if they're putting in a Title V, to put in a Title V with the wood chips. And the whole goal of this is to avoid the state forcing us to have to put in pipes in the ground and a sewer system. So this is just one of several different pieces. I'm supportive of trying to do things that will avoid us having to put pipes into the ground and having to build a centralized sewer system for this town. And I thought Kurt and what was the consultant made a compelling case.
So here's the thing, Jeff, it's going to take 20 years for them to hold us to that. Okay.
No, if the state will approve
and this-
this, that's what I understood. If the state.
Plus, as
approves
Fred
this, they
pointed
can
out,
offer-
this is not a proven technology. And I think also Kurt mentioned that, it would take years to figure out whether or not it's working. So
Well,
it's nice
So-
to have the alternative, but
Look, again,
honestly, it's-
I don't think that anybody disagrees that we need to have clean water and we need to address this. I just disagree that this is, I disagree that this is the correct plan at this time.
I
I
agree.
just think it's an incomplete.
Let me add one thing too. I've asked a number of people on the wastewater committee and elsewhere within town administration about where we would be most likely to get the biggest bang for the buck in terms of holding off the DEP mandating a sewer system. And there is no absolute answer to that question, but our Health and Conservation Department is in conference with the DEP now in Washington to work some of those questions out. And my understanding is, of the things that have been proposed, and this is, again, I'm not a scientist, I could be wrong, but that the bracket, the Lawrence Road component, remember we were offered a plan with 5 or 6 components to it, this being one of them.
Mhm.
That the Lawrence Road component is likely to have the most influence on the DEP saying, yes, you're doing something that will have a material impact on your ability to mitigate wastewater pollution of the harbor and so on. So I'm not saying this is an insignificant thing. I do hear, like, from what Mo is saying, we are subsidizing 250,000. It was $10,000 roughly. So that's 25 homes. There's again, thank you. 25 homes over some period of time. We don't know if it's a year, 2 years, 5 years that will be using this technology. And that has a material impact on how effective it is. What if only 3 do it the first year and 5 do it the second year, and the money gets used, but it doesn't get used for 5 years? It hasn't done a whole lot. Anyway, we have a motion to not recommend, and we have a second on that. So if you say no to that motion, then you are recommending. You can abstain as well. So no, it's a no to a no.
Or reserving.
We
Reserving.
could reserve, but that's not the motion. That's not
That's
the
not
motion.
That's not the motion on the,
That's
Yeah.
not the motion on the floor,
And
but
unless
reserving
Stephen
is,
wants to withdraw his motion and decide to reserve it and see how all these other committees weigh in the next 2 weeks, because it would have to be within the next 2 weeks, or the point is moot. We're going to be right back where we are right now. So I know there was some
I
concern
think
that.
you should call the vote.
well, if we call the vote right now, seeing as how I'm gonna have to vote no, because look at all the committees who actually know things that haven't weighed in. I mean, I think reserving is the better way to go.
So then,
Vote no.
Would you like to recast the motion that we
No,
reserve?
'cause I seconded it, but now I'm gonna vote no because I'm gonna reserve, what I'm going to do.
okay, so
and
I'll
make a
move to remove my, rescind my recommendation to not support.
I'll second
And
that.
recast it as.
And then
a
I
we'll
move that
reserve
we
our vote.
reserve recommendation.
Okay.
for
Because we can
10
always say no in 2 weeks.
Right, and I second both of what he said.
Okay,
I don't think
does
it's-
anybody have an issue with reserving our opinion to town meeting?
No.
Okay, so 9-0 in favor of reserving our opinion. Thank you for that, Stephen. It makes it a
Sure,
little clearer.
yeah,
Um,
I'm all for looking at, never mind.
I'm going to recommend we do the same thing with Article 20 for much the
Which one?
same.
Wait a minute, we still have 20.
20.
20 and 21. I think,
19, oh yeah,
Well,
No,
I would keep 20 and 21
Twen-
differently personally, but if you think we need to reserve both, I'm willing to entertain that notion.
well, we could throw them a bone and just support 20. They could use that 50,000.
Well, 21
this-
is 21 is the big one, but it's the most
We're on
significant.
20 right now.
Yes,
I
so,
think-
So to appease Jeff, we could throw Kurt a bone in that. This one here is also to address nitrogen impairment payments in Wellfleet. A permeable reactive barrier is a carbon source that removes nitrogen and other pollutants from the groundwater. Several other Cape Cod towns are using them as a means to address nitrogen loading in their water bodies. This authorization is for the initial hydrological assessment and design of a, oh, wait a minute. That's for design.
Stephen, can I jump in?
Sure, go ahead.
And I don't have the number, but I remember about 3 meetings ago when wastewater was in front of us, I think in the February meeting. I did ask, there was a previous outlay for design or studies or something like that. And I believe, I'm not sure how much it was, but I think it was a 6-figure significant amount. And I remember asking if we could have a recap of where that was spent. And I don't think we've received that yet.
So I move we reserve
Anybody recall
recommendation at
that?
town meeting.
Yeah, does anybody else recall that or am I?
I'm looking it up right now. Give me 1 second. I have their PowerPoint or something. Just hang on 1 second.
Is there a motion on the table right now to reserve this?
No,
Okay, so
Yes.
here's, so the permeable barrier pilot project for Commercial Street was 450,000, of which the hydrogeological investigation was 100. So you're correct, it was a 5-figure number. It was more than it is now.
Okay, I'd love a recap from the committee to see where that money was spent before looking at any other studies. I'm not trying to be hypercritical. I'm just trying to be fiscally responsible.
I don't think the money was spent. They just wanted to
It
raise the
wasn't,
money.
it
to
was
do
being
it.
proposed.
Okay,
The-
And you're
the
right,
amount has
Kathy, I'm
been
sorry, it's
reduced.
for a larger amount.
The amount has been reduced since February. From 100,000, if it's for the same thing, and it appears to be, it's been reduced from 100,000 to 50 for reasons unknown.
Is there a motion on the table to reserve number 19?
Yes, I made them 20.
20. I'm
I
sorry,
move that we
20.
reserve recommendation for 20.
oh, what just happened?
Whoa,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Some-
what happened?
Is somebody
happened?
trying, is somebody bombing us?
Stop
Why-
broadcast.
why did that happen? Does everybody see this?
yeah.
I
Yeah,
think-
I think the same issue.
Are we being
Me
hacked?
too.
I don't know what's
That's
going
weird.
on. I don't know.
Oh my God.
Wait a minute, I just got a message that there's a ransom to get back on.
$450,000.
And
It was Kurt.
And I ain't paying.
there
There we go.
I wasn't.
All right,
gonna
you know,
pay.
It was Kurt. It
Fred
was,
was
in
just
the
pointing
Ira
it
must
out.
have paid it.
in the interest of expediting this, it looks like we're going to have similar issues on all of the wastewater articles. How about if we reserve our opinion on 20 and 21 for town
Let's
meeting?
give it, let's vote for 21. Let's get. that should be the
21, I
call.
think we have to do because in order for that.
All right,
project-
then on 20, I have a
So
motion.
let's move
to
on
reserve our
20.
opinion on
We move-
20.
oh my God.
Do we have a second on that?
I think so. I second. We're gonna,
Okay.
this is to reserve on 20.
Yes.
Correct. I vote aye. Woody,
Yes,
Yep.
Stephen,
Yep.
Jeff, Mo,
Aye.
Jen, Linda, Kathy, Bob,
Yes.
and
Lin-
whoever's aye.
And I move to accept, to approve 21.
Second,
I second that, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the one we have to do.
Are there any nays on 21? Okay, we are 9-0 to accept or recommend Article 21 and to reserve on Article 20.
you got it.
Charlie, is there anything you'd like to say at this point? That was a joke.
Having a great time.
Good.
Wish you were here, right?
All right.
recommend the
Next
glass
article, the next article, and actually, I don't know much about these. I actually spoke to John Reel at one point about them, and he said, hold off until we have real numbers. This is Articles 25 and 26, the disposal of dredging spoils. And even though, well, I'm not really clear about this. It should say something like Finance Committee recommends on Article 26, because there is a $60,000 sum attached to it. So let's take them one at a time.
Fred, you're muted.
Better?
Better.
Oh, okay. So anyway, Articles 25 and 26 came together, they arrived together. They just showed up about 3 weeks ago. I spoke to John Reel, who was the author. There were no numbers attached to them at the time, except for the Article 25. Article 26, even though it does not say Finance Committee is required to say anything, there is a number of $60,000 attached to it. So we are expected to weigh in on it.
So I would move that we recommend 25, Article 25.
Can I have a second on that, please?
I'll second it. I don't want to keep the spoils.
Yeah, this is part of the long-term plan for the harbor dredging. And this reminds me of what happened the last time the harbor was dredged, where we were supposed to come up with a long-term plan to get rid of spoils. And that's when we ended up buying that Whitman property out there by Indian Neck that unfortunately they found had this rare species, so we couldn't dump the spoils there. And then the harbor didn't get dredged, and we're in the same place we are now. So this looks to me to be part of planning for the future, so that we don't arrive at the place where we are now, where our harbor needs extensive dredging.
And I believe Articles 25 and 26 are to make current studies that were done years ago and that need to be renewed for a variety of reasons. Yes, Woody?
Back to the Future. I vote yes. I mean, I remove it. What is,
There's a motion, it's seconded. We have to vote on it.
All right, so we're voting for Article 25. I'm going to say aye. Woody says aye. Stephen?
Aye.
Jen,
Aye.
Mo?
Aye.
Jen? Linda? Kathy?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
I would have liked to have seen the Marine Advisory Committee and the other committees weigh in on this first again, but
Well, the fact remains, we're gonna need to figure out what to
we're
do
gonna
with
have
our
to figure it
dredging
out,
spoil.
because we
And
spent.
on a different note, maybe we could turn it into fertilizer and sell it as like Wellfleet's fertilizer.
we need,
Well,
We'll
is it-
charge a lot of money for it.
Well, as it
Volunteer
turns out, it
backup.
is no longer, it's now called black custard and not
Black
black
custard.
mayonnaise, because they found out it's not toxic. So it is actually usable in other ways.
Yeah.
Are you abstaining, Kathy, based
No,
on
I'm
what you
gonna
said?
vote aye.
Okay, so we're 9-0 aye. Article 26, the Wellfleet Harbor Flora and Fauna Survey, which I believe we have to weigh in on because it's a $60,000
An
sum or
expense.
any other sum. Charlie, can you explain this a little bit better?
You know, Fred, I apologize. I will just do a disservice. I have not been involved in any conversations. I just think we'd have to bring some people in who would give you good advice.
that's
All right.
honest. Thank you.
Thank you. I move that we reserve recommendation of town meeting.
I'll second.
Thank you. I'll get more information in the next week or two. You seconded, Woody. I vote aye.
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 Mo,
Aye.
Jen, Linda,
Aye.
Kath,
Aye.
Bob.
Aye.
Okay. Moving right along. Article 37.
That was awesome.
That is on
Somebody
page.
just give me the Cliff Notes version of this.
Well, isn't there a summary at the end?
Yeah.
Is there?
Yeah,
Yeah, this is the
Addition to real
housing,
estate transfer.
affordable housing trust. so this is the bylaw for for all the good work that the Affordable Housing Trust people do, and it lays out the responsibilities of all the trustees.
We're looking at Article 37, Ira, not,
Oh, I was on 44.
not
No,
44.
Article 37, home rule.
37.
37.
Home rule petition for real
Article
estate
37,
transfer.
home rule petition to authorize the town of Wellfleet to establish a real estate transfer fee. And my understanding is that,
Oh, yeah.
having read through it, that it essentially is saying if you sell your house for a certain amount over what its estimated value is, you pay a certain tax or a fee. Is that correct, Charlie?
Yeah, I'm just reading the summary actually is kind of informative, so, but you're right.
Well,
So it-
print's too small. There are no glossy pictures, so.
Let's go to 44.
Just a second.
No, I know. I'm confused by section 2, section 3A, first-time home buyers who live in the home for at least 5 years. So does that mean that people who own their home and not people who, what does that mean? I mean, I don't understand. Does that mean that people who are residents of town are not part of it? I don't really understand.
This means that if you're a first-time home buyer and you hold the house for at least 5 years,
You're exempt.
you're exempt. Thank you.
This
Where
is
does
for,
it say that? I'm looking
Um,
at the summary.
It's in the article itself, I was.
In the
referencing
article
section
itself, it's 3A.
3A.
Yeah, I just don't know who first-time home buyers.
Somebody who is the first time that they've actually owned a home.
So that means a lot of people here, a lot of people in town gives people who've lived in town for a long time a break.
If that's their first home.
I
First
think
home
this is,
ever or first
this is
home?
part of the, is this part of the whole shellfishing? Because the issue with shellfishing is that you have to be a resident.
No, this is raising more revenue for the
Raising
town.
revenue.
This is all about raising more revenue.
For
And it
affordable
doesn't go-
housing.
Yeah,
And it is.
is it
to-
earmarked for,
The first $50,000 would go into the capital stabilization fund. The balance would go into the Wellfleet Affordable Housing Trust.
Right. I'm going to move this. I think I think that these people are pretty dedicated. I can't say that I'm
second,
expert on the article, but I think that they want Elaine McElroy and company. This is their article, I believe.
I agree.
It isn't actually, but that's
it
okay.
isn't, but it is a way for them to rate, because that's
This is
relating
not,
to the.
this is home rule. This is not the Affordable Housing Trust. That is Article 44. We're coming up on it, but this is not that. And if you're voting on this thinking that this is about affordable housing, you are wrong. This is about raising revenue for the town.
And a portion of which will go to the Affordable Housing Trust, which is Article 44.
Yeah, the majority of it actually goes to the affordable housing.
Where does it point that out? I'm having trouble.
Charlie just said that.
It's,
out
it's
where
in,
it says
it's in
that-
section 2, subparagraph 1A on
Okay.
page 25.
Yeah, first 50,000 collected in each fiscal year shall be deposited into the town's capital improvement stabilization fund. The remaining funds collected each fiscal year shall be deposited into the Wellfleet Affordable Housing Trust.
So it's pumping up the stabilization fund and the Affordable Housing Trust. It's dedicated towards getting money into those coffers. That's what we would be voting for here.
So my
Whether it's
question
passed
too
in
would
our
be,
code.
is what happens if the funds are not used?
They keep,
You know,
wouldn't they keep
Well,
getting
just
bigger.
sits there and so it can be used? Can it be transferred out for other uses?
What happens with the stabilization?
No, okay.
It's like
It is
more
dedicated, you know,
clarification.
we're gonna have to create a dedicated trust fund for these two
For
fund
these yep,
items. And
exactly.
unless you go back and amend the legislation, you couldn't use it for anything else.
Right.
And correct me if I'm wrong on this, Charlie, I believe this is going to require state approval as well.
Yeah,
That's
it has-
right.
We can't just do this by fiat. So if the state doesn't approve this, essentially it's a bylaw in a sense.
It gets turned down, yeah,
Right.
Yeah,
if they don't approve it.
Legislature, but it can't go to the legislature unless we send it from town meeting.
We put it forward, yeah.
So I'm trying to read
correct.
this really
Is
quick.
it the sentiment of whoever it was who made the motion?
Ira made the
Understanding
motion.
I believe I made.
understanding now what we're motioning for, are you still inclined to make a motion to recommend it?
I am. I
And
don't
I
know.
second it.
Okay, so we have a second. I'm gonna vote aye.
I'm gonna vote aye.
Aye.
Well, one at a time. Jeff,
Aye.
Woody, I
Aye.
mean, Mo rather,
Aye.
Jen, Linda,
Aye.
No,
Bob.
no,
No. And Bob?
Check your
Bob,
phone.
frozen on my screen, I don't, or you may be muted. It was one that says Robert's iPad that's muted. I'm not really
I'm
sure.
muted. Frozen, I think.
I think we're getting silly.
I think
Well,
he's
The good news is we're almost done.
Abstain.
Um,
abstained. He said abstained.
Okay, so we got a 7-1-1, Karen. 7 yes, 1 no, 1 abstain.
Got it.
Okay, Article 41, expanding the residential property tax, I believe. Article 41.
I abstain.
Welcome back.
Oh, you abstain, yeah, okay. So we go 7-1-1, that's correct.
Oh, that last one.
Article 41, expanding the residential property exemption home rule petition.
So this expands what we just voted on?
No, this is completely different, isn't it?
I have to admit, I don't fully understand what we're voting for here.
I move a reserve recommendation at town meeting.
I
I-
second.
I think
Okay,
that's the best thing to do.
and all those.
Yeah, there's no
in
summary on this one. Oh, with the other.
Yeah,
Yes,
there
there
is.
is. It's on page
favor- Page
32,
30.
Thank you.
but it's not the clearest thing on first reading.
Isn't this the same as, I'm missing the term, but there was
Oh, I see. Yeah.
subset, a term for auxiliary housing
Auxiliary.
unit.
No,
But
no,
I think
that's
that
kind of-
one had an impact on one's deed, and it wasn't very successful. And this may be a replacement for that to
no,
simplify
that's
No,
not.
it.
No, actually, what this is actually is that if you own a home here and you rent year round, and if this goes through, you don't have to pay the short-term rental tax. I believe that that's what this is for. This is to encourage year-round rental as opposed
To
to
residents of Buffalo.
Airbnb.
Fred,
And if
The
you're a
the idea is,
resident-
yeah,
so
go
Fred,
ahead.
I think what it expands the current residential tax exemption, that if you live here in town, you get a decrease on your property taxes. This expands it so that if you don't live here, but you rent your place as a full year person, then you can also get the residential tax exemption.
Oh, okay.
That
Well,
makes,
I don't know about that.
what's that?
I think it encourages, the idea is it encourages people to rent their houses year round,
Right.
not as Airbnbs, and encourages more housing for people here in town. So they can still get an exemption, but they're renting it to a year-round resident.
Thank you.
Right.
thanks, Jen.
Thank
So
you.
given that intelligence,
Thank you.
would we
Ken.
like to recast our vote in terms of recommending
Yeah, that,
this article?
I
Well,
would
that
recommend
certainly-
that.
that certainly makes it clear to me, and it's a good thing, I think.
Would you like to reconsider your motion then to reserve? Or was that Stephen?
I'll withdraw my recommendation to reserve a town meeting.
Okay, then I'd entertain a motion to either recommend or not.
I will motion to recommend.
I'll second.
Okay, I will vote aye to recommend. Woody,
I,
Aye.
Jeff,
I'm confused, but I'll go with aye. I can't figure out enough of what's happening. but I'll say aye.
Well, okay,
Well, the-
Mo,
Aye.
Jen,
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
Kathy,
Aye.
Bob. You're muted.
I don't
Okay,
think
we're-
he's-
We're 8-0 at the moment. I'm not sure if Bob's there or not. So 8-0, Karen. All right,
All right, what number are we on now?
44, Affordable Housing Trust.
I move we
Right.
recommend it.
Me too.
Everybody loves the Affordable Housing
Second.
Trust, correct?
Second,
We're moving to recommend 44, is that correct?
Yes.
yes.
All right. I say aye.
Aye,
Woody,
yes.
Stephen,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Mo,
Aye.
Jen,
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
Kathy,
Aye.
and Bob is muted, so we'll go 8-0 on that. The last one is,
Bob's back. Or he's coming.
Bob, would
back.
you like to vote on 44, the Affordable Housing Trust?
Okay.
Okay, last article we have tonight.
Aye.
Article 48.
What page is that?
Bob
I'm
just
gonna tell
voted
you
aye.
what-
53.
53.
Okay,
And this should be the easiest article we had all night.
I move that we recommend article, whatever.
Well, hold on a second, Steve.
Yes,
Let's
okay.
address what it is before we vote for it.
Article.
To see if the
15.
town will vote to authorize the town administrator or the town administrator's designee to dispose of the following articles of personal property by trade or in sale, or do or act anything thereon. It is to
the standard
dispose of surplus or outdated supplies and equipment over $1,500 in value during the fiscal year, to give the TA the discretion to figure out how to get rid of stuff that has some value.
I have a
Is,
police car.
what,
I want a police car.
yeah, does that include police cars? Apparently, yes.
You
Go
got
ahead,
it.
Charlie.
Did somebody move this?
I
Hold on a
did.
second.
Did somebody second?
Charlie has the floor. Woody, Charlie has the floor right now. Just wait a second, please. Please.
The car is yours.
All right,
Oh, guys, I'm sorry.
that's all right. Are you moving to accept, Woody, or are you seconded?
I moved it. He seconded it.
I second,
Okay, I'm gonna vote aye. Ira,
aye.
Stephen,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye, but
Mo,
Aye.
Jen,
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
Kathy,
Aye.
Bob.
Aye.
Okay, 9-0.
How did you do
To
that?
let- to give Charlie,
I
basically, we're
think
giving
that
you
was
the
12
authority.
to
of that.
0.
Is that Lou Gehrig out there?
Hey.
Thank you for your
right,
confidence.
The vote is 12-0. Let's move on.
Well, we're done with our votes for the night.
Okay,
Yay.
Yeah, you guys.
For now.
no,
So
that was good.
clearly, yeah, well, it was in a way.
No, you're doing a great job, Fred. Don't listen to,
Thank you, Ira.
you are. You're doing a very, very good job.
Yes, Fred, you're an excellent chair.
And you are,
Yeah.
and Charlie, we are all very impressed, I can tell you.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had
Actually,
a
I
good
wanted
time,
to-
and by the way, thank you all very much. I do appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Okay.
Well, I wanted to, Charlie, I just
Yeah,
wanted to
so
ask you just for a
grateful.
little bit of input on, like, when you were in Brewster, what was your finance committee like? Like, what did they get?
They were nowhere near as much fun as you all.
Oh, well, that-
are we better
Yeah.
looking?
It's a good thing we have so many pot shops now. It's hard to keep this committee's status.
Exactly.
So it looks like we have to have another meeting. And we've left a little bit too much out there, I think, to do it in the 30 minutes right before town meeting. And I know a
Right.
couple of people are online tonight. Can we meet on the 23rd? That's a Wednesday. It'll be a short meeting because we'll have
Sure.
information on the, don't have information on now. And it should be, I'm gonna say a half-hour meeting, if we're
Sure.
lucky. We'll just whip through the stuff we had to reserve opinions on, unless we can't vote on them at all. So,
Okay.
Sounds good.
Hey,
The 23rd is the Meet the Candidates night.
Right.
I've met them.
So,
That's candidate, the forum.
Yeah, if you want, I don't know that you want to
Okay, you're
make
right.
it earlier.
do you prefer another night? We could do Thursday, we could do Tuesday. I'm ecumenical
which
about that.
candidates are you talking about? The selectmen?
Yes.
Yeah, and we have a situation where we have there's going to be a write-in candidate.
Two writings,
At least two people running.
Two
for the
people.
write-in.
two writings,
One of whom is already a select person.
Yeah, but
right.
there will be people, I mean, I don't think we want to step on Meet the Candidates.
Is it gonna be,
No, I
Zoom? Is that Zoom, Jeff? Is that gonna be a Zoom meeting?
Yes,
Zoom
Yeah.
meeting, yes, by the forum.
Can we do
Yeah, so
Tuesday?
you can watch it in rerun.
no, he may want to ask questions.
Well, then,
So how do you
I'll tell
feel
what,
about
Jeff, why
Tuesday?
don't you go to it and we'll just,
Oh, that's not fair, Stephen.
How do you
I'm
feel about
kidding.
Thursday that week? Thursday of that week. the
Thursday
23rd.
would be fine with me.
That's fine with me.
that's
too.
fine with me.
All right,
Me
let's
too.
do-
Does
Thursday.
the meeting have to be in person?
Which
well,
meeting?
I think after June 15th, our meetings have to be in person.
Is that
Seriously?
true?
No,
That
there's a
would be
whole
great.
bunch, that's not been
No.
resolved anywhere.
I'm not ready.
It looks like he has an
No, I
answer.
think
Unless the
Governor Baker
legislature-
extended that.
The
Unless
Board
the
of
Congress-
Selectmen is discussing that tonight, actually, at their meeting.
Having another meeting tonight?
I
Oh,
thought
it
that
was
was
Board of
last,
Selectmen's meeting was tonight.
No, it was
it's-
last night.
No,
last
they
night.
talked about it last night.
So what did they decide?
Charlie. you
Here's the
have a-
deal.
Charlie
Hey,
has input. He's shaking his head.
Yeah, so anyway, the selectmen did talk about it last night. We haven't made a final decision on the policy, but right now, unless the legislature acts on this legislation that's pending, we're gonna lose our authority to do remote meetings on June 15th. There's a lot of work going on. There's some hope that it's gonna be extended through September 15th. Time will tell. I met with the Board of Health tonight on this very issue, and we'll probably recommend a hybrid remote meeting where you at least have to have a quorum of the respective board present and maybe do the rest of the meeting virtually, but I'm not sure about our technology capabilities.
Well, whatever,
Anyway, we're
the day
working on it.
works for me, whether it's in person or remote. I'll
Yeah,
be
me
there.
too. I mean, since we have no idea, but town meeting is on the 26th, let's tentatively say we're going to meet on the 24th, the night after candidates night, either in person or not.
Right.
Good to
I
me.
will
Right.
not be attending that. I can't make that one, Fred, on Thursday, but you'll probably go quicker without me, so.
I don't, oh, Kathy. As long as we have a quorum, we'll get the votes done. So tentatively the 24th, because we don't want to step on candidates night. And we'll know whether we're going to meet in person or not sometime in the next, what's today? 6 days. And there you go.
And
So just a question, did the selectmen decide on when like the library's gonna be opening and town
The
hall?
library is opening, yeah, on the
It is?
15th. I think it's opening
On the 15th, okay.
I think I heard that tonight.
Yeah, because I just did a rough check and actually Provincetown, Truro, Eastham, and Orleans and Brewster, library is open. You can walk in. Whereas I think we're still closed, right?
Yes, we are, but I
Yeah,
believe they're
what's
open.
with that?
It's gonna change very quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so. Thank you.
Well, with that, we have no other business. There's no correspondence. There's no new business, unless you want to meet Mo again. And I've got nothing else.
We met Mo last weekend.
You're a fun bunch. I want to say that.
Okay.
What
Good night,
happens?
everybody.
I have
Thank
a, what
you.
happens if town
Bye.
meeting is longer than one day?
Who knows?
Can't be. Won't. be. He
Yeah, I
won't.
hope
It won't
Yeah, I can
problem.
go back to another day.
Thank you for at least getting through the list. Even though
Yes,
we do have a little work yet to do, but that was, I think, expected. because some of these articles are indecipherable at this point. And why should we be the ones when better minds have work to do?
Okay.
Thank you, Charlie.
To adjourn.
Okay, bye. I'm gonna go have dinner, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank
Please
you,
do.
Charlie.
Can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
I move, we adjourn.
Second,
Second.
Blah,
Good
blah,
night,
blah.
everybody. All those who say aye.
good
say aye.
night.
Yes, good night.
Bye.